Hey, fam. Welcome back.
Hi, guys.
I'm doing the intro today. Okay, I'm going to try and not mess it up because Tessa just always sounds way better. But we really connected with our guest today. She reached out to us, and we just love when people are just with the same mindset and energy when it comes to filmmaking, supporting women, the horror film space, which we love. So she is Miss Jess Costa. She is a writer and director and has done a bunch of amazing shorts. You'll get to hear about her background on the show, and definitely check her website out because when I was stalking her, I was blown away by her sets and what she accomplished. So we talk about in the episode, but you can visually see them on her website. And she is working on an upcoming indie horror feature film called Sleep Talking. And we get into that where she is in the process, which we love when directors are just open with where they're at. And we just get into why she created the film. And my personal favorite topic is the psychology behind screenwriting and directing and the different layers there are. We as humans have this like complex notion about us, and I just love getting into that. So
speaking of psychology and dreams and sleep talking, do you sleep talk? Because I talk in my sleep. I make noises in my sleep. Oh yeah. Sometimes I'll be like in a nightmare situation, and if I like am yelling in it, I will literally wake myself up. Like I'll be like, ah! So anybody that's ever sleeping with me, I'm sorry.
Oh my God, you would scare me. I'd be like,
oh my
God. No, I only do in really terrifying dreams. Like I think I got cursed the first time at a Hooters. At a Hooters hotel in Vegas. That is a story. I woke up screaming bloody murder, scared my brother half to death. Because but I was in sleep paralysis mode and literally felt like a spirit attacking me. But I go on. That's literally the only time. But yeah, we get into dreams, her stories, and guys, you're just gonna love this one. We love this girl. Follow her, stalk her. I mean, don't actually stalk her, but
just online stalking.
just just her film and stuff. She's really awesome.
Become a fan.
Become a fan. Awesome. Enjoy. Yeah, we're so happy to have you on. Thank you for reaching out to us. We love that, and we love everything that you're doing. And I literally have my psychological notes when I screenwrite. I know, but fam, you can't see, but I have a brain diagram with different parts of the brain. That's and incredible. This really helped me in understanding my the character I was writing about for my psychological horror film. So I'm excited to get into that. But before we do, we definitely want to hear about you, your journey, your projects, and everything, just everything. So
all of the above.
All of these.
She was born on a Wednesday.
I actually was.
Oh, me too.
November 1st,
nice.
1995. Yeah.
Oh my God, Scorpio.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, I'm the 9th.
Oh, hello.
I know. It's just all aligning.
It's just meant to be. Yeah, I was just meant to be here right now.
You are, we've definitely checked you out. You've done a couple shorts and I know other projects in the whole horror psychological realm. What got you tied into the genre and made you so passionate to now do I believe this is your debut feature, which is Sleep Talking? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Correct. I've always loved horror and fantasy and magic. Some of my films that aren't specifically horror still have that magical element to them because I love playing with a fantasy world and world building. Like for me, when
Oh
I
yeah, you
write,
can see that in your shorts, guys. You got to check it out. It looks really good. Yeah.
yeah, for me, when I start writing, I start with my world building actually. Because for me, like I also come from a set design background. So
Mm.
that's really how I like to dig in. I'm like, oh, well, where are we? What's going on? Like 99-cent Dreams, one of my shorts. I was like, ooh, what if you could rent dreams for 99 cents? What would this store look like? Who would
Yeah.
go there? Why would they want to rent dreams? And I let the world that we enter in kind of answer the questions for me to dive into my writing. But I just love playing make believe. Like I think that's as a core of when we were younger. That's what we always wanted to do. And I just never wanted to get rid of that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's why I went into acting, because I'm an actress first and a filmmaker second. But same thing. It's like I am an only child. So I grew up, like just creating all of my own worlds and fantasies and all of that. And, of course, yes, I had friends that I played with. I was not, it wasn't just always playing by myself, you guys. But, you had to have
Just
an
picture
imagination.
Tessa.
Sometimes
out in the fields
Sometimes
of Pennsylvania.
I was out in the field talking to myself, But
Girl, I did too. I put on I threw onion grass at the neighbors because I was like, they're haunted. Like I'm cast a spell.
My family was always like, yeah, Jess was like hanging out in the basement for hours. We're not sure what she was doing, but she was in her own world. It's fine. We'll just leave her down there. Yeah.
Listeners, I'm sure some of you can relate. Absolutely. And I think, honestly, I know, there are rules, and world building is kind of step one. I think that's a really smart tool that you need to think about in the process of creating your story. Like literally one of the first things, because that's going to indicate not only your budget, if you put your producer hat on, but how the environment is impacting your character's psychology and on an emotional level too. So, and physically as well. So there's just all those juicy layers that you can play with then. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, it's for me, I've retired my producing hat because my heart, it hurts. I'm very lucky. I have a wonderful producing partner who has just taken that over and is just so excited to bring that element to filmmaking. But for me, I actually, when I write, I make sure to put my producing hat aside, get it all out, see what I dream up. And then the producing hat can come in a bit later being like, okay, Jess, you just wrote a 1929 seance scene. And Danielle, your producer, just said it's going to cost $30,000. So how can we tell that in a better way?
Yeah.
I love that. That's a really good process to have too. I think you don't want it to limit your creativity off the bat. And that's something I have to go back and forth, and then I just give myself that freedom, and then that's Tessa for me too. She'll just be like, and I'll be like, girl, I already thought about it. I already thought of the solution. Here it is. Tell me what you think.
That's the most rewarding moment too, where you're like, well, I thought of the way to actually bring this weird, quirky world to life without spending thousands.
Yeah.
I love that y'all did that with your short, that you have horses. And the first one, someone's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna write horses into my film. He's like, no, don't do that. And you're like, we'll find a way. It's fine. We've got this. It's the heart of our story.
And
it was an expensive journey and learning lesson, but I'm so glad that Tess and I didn't get so producery about it, because we wouldn't have made it. Yeah. We really wouldn't have even tried.
And at the same time, we have the feature script written for it as well, but that would obviously be extremely expensive, so we haven't set out to make that yet. But we did have that in mind of we have to have horses. It's a Western, but the least amount of horses that we can have in the full film, right? So we literally wrote scenes where the characters lose their horses. Creative solution right there.
And it raises the stakes either way. You're like, you can't make it too easy for them. Get rid of the horse.
Yeah.
And guys, if you saw my character, goddamn Goldilocks, she would lose her horse. 1000% would lose her horse.
Oh, definitely. Use her little pan to use as a witch's broom and fly off.
Yeah.
I have a question because of the beautiful, if I'm remembering correctly, you had like a really cool looking old like house that you shot one of your shorts with. And again, that's not something when you're writing and then trying to produce, is that something you already knew you had access to? These are questions, yeah, like I know filmmakers are trying to assess like when they're getting into it. So yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, for me, so that's you're talking about Once Upon a November. That is my senior thesis, and when I was in college, and I was like,
I should
I'm
have
gonna,
known you were a Scorpio then.
yeah,
I was like, ooh, Once Upon a November.
yeah, oh,
Yes.
hello.
Hello.
But I was just like, I'm gonna have a Victorian mansion. Not sure how I'm gonna do it. Don't know where to find it, but that's the dream. Here we go. And so I was seeking out to do like costumes, everything on a budget. And I was actually working for an internship with this amazing company called Public Record. They did We the Animals was their big short or feature film that they did. And they were like, oh, well, you can go to the mayor's office in each county and town and see what they have on there. And if it's a short or if it's like a student film, they will either give it to you for cheap or for free because they want to support independent artists. They won't charge you the like $10,000 a day.
I'm sorry,
Love
what
that.
town are you from?
I'm in Westchester in New York.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify. That's amazing. Thank you, New York. You're a glorious state.
I
All
have
right,
a feeling
keep
it's more than just New York too, to be honest, because a lot of places, you know, that don't have already a big market want to support independent film. So just throwing that out there if you listeners are anywhere around the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity. That's amazing. Okay, so you went in.
Yeah, we went in and you find creative solutions. So like hypothetically, if I didn't have both the inside and the outside of the mansion accessible to me, you go to like your parks department and be like, okay, can I film outside this place? And then you find rooms that you can cheat to look like a ballroom or to look like an old 1800s bedroom. Because honestly, even the ballroom we filmed in, we shot in such a small section of it. We didn't even use the whole thing.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, I could have used something a lot smaller and made it feel really full.
A lot of times you can really cheat a lot with that, you know, filming an exterior and then doing an interior somewhere else. Like, and most of the time, nobody's going to notice that it doesn't match. It doesn't, you know, like I think of American Horror Story, the first season, The Murder House. So it's out here in LA, the actual murder house, and you can go visit. You can't go inside, but you can see it from the outside. And fans have literally
Tessa's gone inside.
I've talked to the fans. You know,
I live there now. I'm their cat.
Yeah. But fans have literally like torn it apart and dissected it and figured out that the interiors they used and like moving around the house, so like the layout of the interior could not possibly match the actual interior, which is never going to happen with your film. You guys don't worry. But I just think that's hilarious that people actually took the time to do that, because 99.9% of the time you can easily cheat from a different location.
Yeah, like even in so for my feature, we're filming it this summer, and of course there's another Victorian house because I have a theme going on. And
Love it.
The bedrooms that we're using don't match up to the main hallway. So we just make sure to orient ourselves. We're like, okay, if you're going to walk out the room, there's a window to the left. Let's just make sure we either like actually there's a part where they walk out the room, it's a window, but in the main hallway, it's actually supposed to be a door. So we're like, oh, so then we'll just get like a prop door and put it against there so it covers the window, and people just are like, oh, you don't realize.
Yeah.
I love that, because that's something I'm struggling with. We haven't nailed down our location yet for the apartment we are mainly going to be at. And there is a long hallway that's like right in the script where there's like the doors to the bedroom. And I'm like, shit, like if we can't get, like, I really want us to have like 2 bedrooms because the girls each have their own, but God forbid we just can't find that, like, what's the solution? And I love that you said that, because maybe there's still a way we can cheat using the one bedroom, because one of the characters is barely like featured in hers, to kind of have the appearance of multiple doors in the hallway and then use the one bedroom as the filming area, and just move furniture around and you know, all that.
Yeah, and I would
So
even like not show one half of like one of the walls. So like keep it so that like if there's something really unique on the right hand side, I'm like, don't show that in like I was gonna say girlfriend, in one of the girl A's room. Because then you can be like, oh, she actually hangs out by this window and has this bench, and like that's her long moody shot. And
I love that.
and you can
That's
also
such a
do like
great giveaway.
DIY wallpaper, which I love.
Yeah. I mean, it's all movie magic, you know, when people talk about the things that you can pull off in movies to totally make it look like something else, you know, it's, which I think it's like, it's magic. Like, it still blows my mind. Even literally, like, not crossing the 180 line, which is such a simple concept. When I, as an actor, am like, wait a minute, I think we're crossing the line, but I don't want to say anything because, wait, I have to think about where, okay. Like, it's such a, it's, to wrap my brain around it is so difficult for me, because I just don't have that mindset. I'm not, you know, a camera person. I'm not even really a director. So it just still blows my mind when people can think to do those things and pull them off and make it look like something totally different and amazing.
Well, that's, I think, the beauty of a team, and like why I love film so much. I know I can't and don't want to do it by myself. And there's certain things that my brain just really can't wrap around in that way as well. And I get to go to my DP and be like, hey, is this even achievable? Can we make that shot and like do this weird turn? Because I want to see her close up in that moment, but we're also like 10 feet away and I don't want to see like speed rails. What do you think? And they're like, yeah, let's figure it out. Oh, I got that. That's easy. And I'm like,
yeah.
God, I love a good DP. Seriously. They are saviors.
Yeah.
I love them.
I work with this DP named Brianna Mann. She shot 99 Cent Dreams, and she's working with me on Sleep Talking. And she just makes the process so fun. Like, we come up with the shot list separately and then meet together. And then we're like, ooh, like with 99 Cent Dreams, there's this big gumball machine that we shoot through because I want it to feel like you're trapped in the bubble of the world.
Love that.
And we were on set, and it was the first day, and we didn't get the opening shot outside the store. And all of a sudden I was like, shoot, I don't know what we're going to do. We went to sleep the next day, and it was only a short, so it was 3 days. And she just turned around to me. She's like, wait, what if we end the film the way we started? Let's go back through the gumball machine. And we're like cheering about a gumball machine shot for the rest of our lives.
That is dope, though. That is what sticks. And it's because of like those little, I don't even call them mishaps, but shit happens and you just make something beautiful like out of it. And the right people will do that.
Yeah.
So that's when, like, those are the people I want on my team, not making more problems out of problems. Like, I'm like, we need to talk about solutions, honey. Just talk to me about solutions. I don't want to hear the problem.
For me, I think it's important to be like, okay, this is the intention. Like, I know I wanted this shot, or I know I want it to look this way, but like, let's then zero back in and see if that inspires something for them as well to find the solution. Because at first you're disappointed. You had like a shot in mind or a thing in mind, but I think, as we said, like, that's the magic of filmmaking. It can always be changed and get back to the heart of it. And like, you'll still tell the same story, even if it's not what you planned.
Absolutely.
Right.
And we've talked a few times to a few different filmmakers about, you know, like when something happens or doesn't happen unexpectedly on set, like those accidents are sometimes end up being like a savior of the film, like a super unique moment that you know, weren't planning, didn't expect. Right. And I mean, that happens also on like professional sets too. Like, listeners, if you don't already know, I'm a huge David Lynch fan, and he talks about that in his films. Like, that's his favorite moment, when something like that happens, just like a happy little accident, you know? Yeah.
And that's also like working with, like, for me as a director, I'm not an actor by any means. And so I get to work with incredible actors who show up and have so much life and heart and one just like bare their souls. And I'm like, thank you for doing that. I'll be back here. And they make a choice. And I'm like, I love that. I would have never thought about that. Let's like dig in. What made you think that? What like pulled you out of the character and inspired that for you? Because let's explore that. Whatever that was, I loved that. And that's a great gift as a director.
Directing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as an actor, I appreciate directors like that. And every actor is different, every director is different, but personally, I love being directed. Like, my most ideal scenario is when a director's like, okay, let's do one take, just give me what you got, give me what you thought of, and then the next take, totally be like, all right, so loved that, but like, what about if we do this, and what if we throw in this, and like, throw it all at me, like I'm ready to change it all around. I love that, so I really appreciate when directors take the time to actually direct actors and not just, oh, well, actually I want you to enter from there, all right, let's roll again. Like, it's so much fun to have that collaboration and that playfulness.
Totally. And also, one thing I hate that some directors do is they won't tell you what you did well and what they loved what you did. And because I do understand the mindset people say, like, don't tell your actors what they did well, because then they'll get so focused on it and then they'll mess it up. And I'm like, so you don't trust the people you're working with then.
Right.
I want to trust my actors and know that they can tell me what they need. Like I like to use meditation a lot when it comes to like coming in and out of really hectic scenes. And I also want to make sure my actors know that, like, yes, I'm the director, but you need to consent to every moment and every scene. If something doesn't feel good in your body, I don't want to do it.
That is so important.
Yeah.
We're about to have Judith Weston on our show, and she wrote Directing Actors, that book. I don't know if you've read it, but literally everything you're saying is exactly what she says. Like, compliment your actors, ask for consent, create that safe space. And you're like all lit up. I'm so
fangirling secondhand from both of you.
Yes, that's literally later today. We are so excited.
I'll just stay on. It's fine.
I'll be like, so we have Jess in the
we have a fan.
Yes. But you are definitely like right on it, and I think that's something that doesn't get like brought to the forefront for directors, or like we don't talk about it enough, is like those moments of making sure that it's a safe space, or like, just give me a compliment. I need that. Like, because sometimes we don't know too. Like, it is nice. It's a nice check-in. Like, okay, I'm on the right path. Like, cool. Like, because in my head, I'm overthinking it. Like, I'm an overthinker. So even if you don't tell me and I see we're moving, I still am like, well, is this shit? Like, do you like what I'm doing? I'm assuming you are, because we keep moving really fast.
100%. And it's, you want to be able to have that connection, because then if you're in your head the whole time, you're second guessing everything you're doing, that's not going to do anybody a service. It's not going to do you as a human, us as storytellers. For the film, you'll just look like nervous and in your head. And I know some people do that because, like, well, that's the point in the moment. And it's like, again, you hired great actors.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They act it out. You don't need to actually put someone through emotional turmoil to get that performance, like Kubrick. Like,
right.
Ugh.
Yeah, we've seen it happen in the past, and we see how traumatized it makes people, so don't recommend it.
I want us to create the future we want to see in our industry, and that takes us doing small steps to create those environments and bring everyone together in such a beautiful, safe, open way to create these like beautiful, fun things. Yeah. That's what filmmaking is. It's fun, it's playful, and even if your story is really heavy, I think you need to do it 10 times more playful then on set.
Yeah,
that's a really good point. It's that juxtaposition that we see so frequently in our lives anyways. When we're in pain, we're usually masking, all those different, those contradictions exist, because that's just like, we're not going to if we're sad, we're not like gonna necessarily try to show the world that, oh, we're hurting on the inside. We're usually gonna mask it, you know, things like that. So I think that's always interesting as a director, and I'm still like learning and on my journey of it, because I'm an actor first, but that's where I'm like, okay, like how do we bring that without like over directing, you know, our actor, and being from the writing mind, which we'll dive into. It's like, okay, like I understand like the psychology now where do I just kind of step back and like give my actor, the Tessa, the ability to like not over explain it too. Like I want to know what she like innately feels, but she has to hear me go on these wild tangents for the moment. You know, that's where I'm just like, how do we like break, now that I know psychologically what's happening, where do we also then step back? Do you talk to me about that, you know?
Yeah, like as a director, I think it's great to know like very granular what you want, what the psychology is in the background. And because if you don't know, you can't make the creative choices to influence the shot, the performance, everything around them to include that. And
Right.
I'm a big supporter of asking my actor, like, what do you need support in this moment? Like, I think it's always just listening and kind of cycling back, because like directing for me is a lot of prep for creative, because I love all my notes, but at the end of the day it's intuition. You got to trust your gut, you got to trust the people in front of you, and you'll know when you ask someone like, hey, what do you think for this, and they say a choice and you're like, honestly, I don't think that's aligned, but I really appreciate that offer because it can also direct us in another way. And as a director, I think more and more, because sometimes you don't have time to prep as much as you want, or really like you'll have all the psychology down on the page and you're trying to translate that to an actor. And you saw something in their performance earlier on when you auditioned them, and you knew that they had it. So
Right.
connect that way and be like, yeah, what do you think about this? I want this word intention, but I'm open to see what your spin on it. Like, let's dig deeper here.
Yeah. And that's why I think auditioning is so important too, because, you know, a lot of us in the indie space is like, we're just casting our friends, you know, and you might know that your friend, well, first of all, something I always like, I'm like, Carolina, let's remind ourselves, and to anybody, like, we're out here in LA, we have a ton of actor friends, right? And just because your friend is working and stuff, if you've never seen them act, do not hire them until you have seen them act. But even then, you know, once you know they're a good actor, maybe you're in class with them and you've seen them do a bunch of things, still have them audition for the part that you have them in mind for, because they could be an excellent actor and not suited for that part. And maybe they have the look for it and that's why you thought of them for it, but like they just can't pull off that, you know. So I do think auditioning, even if you want to frame it like you're already cast, but we don't know how to cast you, like whatever works for, you know, your situation, just make sure the person is suited, because sometimes people are so perfect for a part, like you barely have to direct them, and that's the ideal, you know. So you just don't want to get somebody that's the complete opposite, and then you're screwed.
Yeah, and it's also like, I know when I first started out and I was asking friends like, hey, do you mind auditioning, I felt guilty and I felt bad that it's like, oh, I don't want to waste their time, and I also like, what if I don't cast them, what does that mean? And but then you didn't have that conversation at first, so you go in with it being like, I want to audition you because, one, this is one of my favorite spaces. I love being able to play and go in any direction in an audition. And also, I want to see what you can bring to the table. And even if you're not right for this part, even if we don't work together right now, this opened up the space that I got to see you in a whole different light as an actor.
Yeah.
That then my next film or another part, I'm like, wait, you would be amazing for this. And so it's just growing our relationship more as creatives rather than this specific project and now.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach.
Yeah, and like kind of to see how you guys even work together. Like, can they take your direction or not?
That's a good point.
Kind of test that out, because too with like a friend, like maybe it's like, all right, now we have to put ourselves, it's almost like, you know, in relationships when if you work together, like, you know, and you go, someone's the boss all of a sudden, it can be a weird dynamic. So I feel like that's also really important to see, like, how do you guys work together? And can they see you as now like director? I gotta listen. I gotta really listen now and see. Yeah. Tessa, I'm seriously digging Jambox. The fam needs to hear about their extensive music and sound effect library.
I agree. Not only do they have a huge library created by Hollywood-level composers, but you can search through it all based on criteria like genre and mood.
Plus, they even have detailed stems you can use to create your own soundtracks from the elements they provide. You can literally be your own composer.
6,000 unique tracks and tens of thousands of stems, plus over 10,000 sound effects. Carolina, that's amazing.
Oh, it gets better. They even gave us a discount code for our listeners. 10% off with Femme10. Connecting filmmakers with ridiculously good music and sound effects. Go and visit jambox.io and start leveling up your sound production.
Exactly. Again, that's code FEMME, F-E-M-M-E 10 at jambox.io.
This season, FemRegard Podcast is sponsored in part by Celtics, the all-in-one solution for script writing and video production planning. And fam, we've been using them for all our projects.
Celtics has been providing valuable script writing and pre-production tools for creators for 20 years, and their cloud-based studio just keeps getting better and better.
One recent addition we love is the multi-column AV script editor. This script format combines traditional script writing with storyboarding and shot planning for a visual-driven script writing experience.
With this unique script template, you can script write, storyboard, and create shot lists in the same document, easily prepare professional, presentation-ready documents for your team and clients, and work collaboratively. With real-time collaborative script editing, secure sharing links, revision tracking, and comments features.
And Celtics' multi-column AV script editor is completely connected to all tools in the Celtics studio for a faster and easier to manage pre-production workflow. Head to Celtics.com, that's CELTX.com, to create your free 2-project Celtics account and to learn more about Celtics' multi-column AV script editor. When you sign up, you'll get unlimited access to Celtics' full suite of tools for your first 7 days.
Celtics, the all-in-one solution for script writing and video production planning.
And it's setting the tone. It's like, hey, just the way I run my set, and I want to check in if this is aligned with you. It is very important to me that people show up on time, that they show up with their full energy. And if that's not possible, if you're not able to do that, that's okay. I'm not judging the way that you have your process and how you are as an actor or performer, but this is what I need as a director. Like, these are my boundaries. How does that work for you in a working scenario?
Punctuality is in, and showing up is very key for Tessa and I. We like always take notes because it's, we don't work that way well with people who just aren't like.
I just, I get it if something is in your way, if there's a big accident. I mean, in LA, there's always traffic, so it's not really an excuse. But if there's like a big accident or something that makes you late or something really happened in your morning, I get it. That is forgivable. But if you are someone that is constantly, even like 15 minutes late, I'm going to judge you for it on a professional level. Like, I have a lot of friends that can never be on time, but that's, we're hanging out, whatever. If you are there to work, you better be on time or I'm not going to want to work with you. Like, that's just, I can't do that. It makes me super anxious and I don't want to fucking deal with it. So
I shouldn't be getting calls at 5:30 in the morning from my ADs that the director is not waking up and coming downstairs for their pickup time.
Yeah.
So, which if you guys listened to our last episode of the season, you'll know who that is. But it's just things like that where I'm just like, or they're constantly forgetting the most important papers to like bring and stuff. It's just like a nightmare. It's a big no-no.
Yeah, no, I know film is like, there's a hierarchy and all of that, but at the end of the day, none of that matters.
Right.
Like, you need to respect every single person on set. And
Amen.
if you're like, if I showed up late, I would feel like, and just because I was like, oh, I don't need to be there. I'm like, what am I setting as an example as a leader? Like, what does that tell my team, that I don't care about the thing that we're spending so much time, energy, money, and just creative ability on?
Right.
Then what are you doing?
That is so such like a good way of putting it. It's like, especially because it's your thing, you have to care the most. You have to show face for it the most too, and that energy will carry that. And yes, we've said it so many times in the show. I totally don't believe in a hierarchy. Every role is so important. So that's why, like, it is a reasonable expectation that every single person, not just the actors, like crew, everyone show up, have that good energy, because it takes literally everyone to do this kind of work.
And like, it will be a magnet for the right people who are aligned with that, and that people who have that energy as well. Because if I show up like half-assing it and not fully energized, then I'm going to get a team who's also like, oh, it's just a gig, it's fine. Rather than
which is an easy
team.
switch to make in their minds. Like, I think we all can just be like, okay,
I'll be done with this in a month. Cool.
Exactly.
Amazing. So with psychology and screenwriting, like, just to get into it just a little bit, I can speak, I guess, first on why I thought it was so important for me to study the brain with my characters. And I just think there were so many, and I just learned so much, because in our script, we have someone who's classified, quote unquote, as a narcissist, as more of a sociopath. But like, then I had to learn what's a psychopath and a sociopath. And then in my findings, clinically, there's no such thing as a psychopath. And it's more of an anti-social disorder kind of, in, the realms of psychology. That is what it's more classified as, like depressed, antisocial. It can like be all these things. And because I have a therapist, I'm like, okay, I have to learn, like, clinically, what is the mindset, and then really go in micro with what the different characteristics is. And what I learned, honestly, is there isn't a hard line with all of this, but helped me understand, what is it, a genetic thing? In, like, you guys don't have to get so into it, but for me, it was fun to be like, all right, what parts of the brain are working for her? What are the blocks? And it helped me write her voice better, or her story arc better, I guess.
Yeah, I love that it gave you a sense of structure, because I think to have that creative freedom, it is nice to have those bounds. And then you can also make the choice of like, okay, since it actually isn't as defined as I thought it was, where can I take this? It makes it even more exciting. I love going at it as a psychological approach. And I love that was one of the first things you did, that you're like mapping where in the brain it showed up, and just really getting into that, because the research is, when I'm writing, is one of my favorite things to do.
Same, especially. And I just feel like it doesn't have to even be like about a psychopath necessarily, that I would want to go into the psychology always. Like, I feel like I do want to understand what, because it like indicates what makes us tick, or maybe we're more advanced in the skills and why. And
I honestly thought I've always said that once I got more into the psychology, even of myself, like when I started going to therapy and I really started digging into like, why do I do the things that I do? It showed up immediately in my writing. I saw that like my characters became more honest, and they knew who they were more as I got to know myself more. And like, I'm a big Brene Brown junkie as well.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah, the queen of vulnerability has so much heart. And you're like, oh, right. That's why I love order. That's why I needed a sense of control. And for me, my main character, Maya, who's 15, her whole journey is realizing that she can't control, fix, save everything without losing herself. And so it's like, well, what would make a 15-year-old do that? Feel like they need to control everything? Is it because their parents aren't really present, which is what happens to Maya in the film? So it's like, okay, so she's now the adult here. And for me, like, I even looked at people in my life. Like my sister was always very protective. I'm the youngest, my sister's the oldest. And I was like, oh, okay, I can see why she does that. And what little mannerisms come from that? Is it because like my sister's a little bit more OCD than I am, and I'm a little messier because I'm younger sibling, why not? And so you get to see those little tidbits come up in your script, and then you go into the psychology and you're like, wait, okay, so this actually means parentification. So what does that mean for Maya? Is to the point, like, how far does she go? Like, does she go to the point where she makes dinner every night? Or does she try to get a side job? Or is it, because for me, this is a horror movie, I did it more as, if I solve the mystery that my mom is trying to solve, we can go home and we can all be a family again. So how does that come into play as Maya tries to, like, not just be Nancy Drew and solve the mystery, but there's more emotionally at stake.
Yeah.
Right. That is huge. That is like what, propels, like it gives purpose. And I think that's what we're always trying to figure out, what is the purpose. And I think that's so helpful to remind yourself, even like when you're directing or in the writing, like, what is the overall purpose? Because people don't do shitty things just to do shitty things,
right.
Like there's a reason. What are they overcompensating for? I mean, you can see that in examples in your life. It's like, okay, yeah, she's being, Mother Goose. Why is she being so like uptight or like, so forceful about something? Maybe she's protecting because overall she's scared. Like, you can really layer that.
And having a fully fleshed out character psychologically allows the audience to relate better too, because again, it's not just somebody like doing something for the sake of doing it. You see their motivation or, what caused them to act that way or whatever. And that, because we're all floating around on this planet chock full of so many problems and issues. Like, it's like we all have trauma from such a young age, no matter how perfect our childhoods were, no matter how amazing our parents are. Literally, birth is a trauma, so seriously, it affects us psychologically. So
on both parties,
we can all relate to different things. We all lead different lives. We all have this collective psychology as well. So when a character really feels real is when they've got all of that psychological stuff fleshed out. So yeah, it's very important.
Definitely. And for me, like diving into that in the writing process helped me so much later. It helped me find our main character. Funny enough, the character's name is Maya and played by an actor named Mia.
Oh, wow.
Who is,
Maya, Mia.
Oh, yeah. And she's such a love. And I was able to see all of those little, like, smaller anxious moments. And if I didn't dig into Maya's psychology of, like, if you're going to be the parent at 15, you've probably been this way for a while. What are the little tics that would come out then? Then you start to look for it later as well, that come up a little bit more naturally.
Right. That is also really fun. And I wrote that in, like, again, I want to see how like Tessa will interpret some of these tics, but I did like figure out what are some of the tics that we even do on our face when we get really triggered, or what is circling up. And I kind of use it to also elevate the horror aspect too of like what gets scary. But I've seen it too, like people like have these little weird like tics when certain things happen, and it's just a side effect of what emotionally they're going through in the moment and stuff.
It's small ways to almost Easter egg their backstory as well, even if your film doesn't tell you about it.
I love that. I love when I see an actor play that part and you're like, why are they doing this? Like, it's just like, it's subtle, but it's there. You're like, why does that happen? And it makes me as the viewer really like play Nancy Drew and try to piece together their backstory, because you won't see it right away, at least.
Yeah. Like it reminds me of, I don't know if y'all have watched Ted Lasso. But,
it's on my list.
I love
Tessa,
Listen,
you're
I'm too
living
busy
a world
to
without
watch
joy.
TV, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, I only watch when I eat, girl.
That's what I do
You
too,
eat,
actually.
that's when you watch.
I know, I've been working through a long list, but anyway.
Well, to not to spoil anything, but with like Ted Lasso, I do love there are little quirks that
Mm-hmm.
they don't actually dive into until like late season 1, season 2. And I
Yeah.
love the little things that aren't even explained sometimes, that then once you understand at the end of the film what they went through, you can rewatch it and you pick up on it more. And you're like, oh, I get you now more. I understand. And that makes you see more of yourself in them. Like you understand why you saw more of yourself in them. You're like, I connect with them, but I'm not really sure. And it can't be the weird tick thing, right? Like,
Right. Right. That's really a great point. I think also getting some of that closure too at the end is nice. And then, but still that excitement to, okay, now when I rewatch this, which I've seen movies like that where I'm like, okay, now instantly I want to rewatch it. I'm like, this is a good film because now I want to look for those moments and try to piece it together more. And that's what's really, I think, to me, what makes a good film like successful. It's like wanting to rewatch and like digest more of it because it's so layered.
Yeah.
yeah. No, I honestly, I say that all the time. That's my big goal in life. I don't need to have the best film. I want to have a film that people want to rewatch and it becomes almost their comfort food.
Yeah.
Like for me, even as like a horror movie, Scream is something I rewatch all the time. Because it's
Are you gonna watch the new one?
I am. I'm gonna go dive in. I love Neve Campbell. She's great and just carrying it all the way through.
Oh my god. No, I love Scream. But go on. Yes, Scream's so good.
But yeah, it's just I like I also have a movie list that goes on and on forever because I keep rewatching the films I love all the time. And it's like, I want to make comfort food for films. And is it like because someone feels seen on camera? Is it because like I wrote about something that was very cathartic for me and someone's finally like, oh, you know what? Thank you for showing like someone who processes grief 10 years later. It's like some movies, it's very immediate. It's like, let's talk about that. What happens if you don't process it right away just because you're young, you don't understand, or because you're not ready? And just having those little moments really just bring us together.
Yeah, absolutely.
I gold. Beautiful. Like that's why we love I think movies and even some of the like horror, I've mentioned it before maybe on the show, but like even horror, there's just like a cathartic reaction sometimes, and maybe it's just a way of getting, an emotional reaction yourself from it. It takes you out of it, or it brings in something really real that you can like kind of work through yourself, like a real, fear that you have. It's like all that. It's really fun.
And I even read like a psychological study, I forget where it is, I'll try to find it, that talked about how people use horror movies as, what is the word? Exposure therapy. Because, well, one, it could be exposure therapy because they're like, oh, I can be, like if I'm claustrophobic and it's a film that's like you're trapped in a cave, that can help me. Or even just if you've experienced trauma and have PTSD in your life, you can watch this film and know you're safe. Even though you've had like the bodily sensations of being scared, at the end of the movie, you're going to be home, you're safe, and everything's okay.
Yeah.
Unless you're like me, and then I feel like there's spirits, and then I can't sleep for the rest of the night. But
oh, that happens to me too. I first
it,
watched the Conjuring series, and I watched all of them in one weekend.
Yeah.
Girl, me too. I rewatched it with my boo, who I got into horror, and I'm very proud of myself. I first took him to Hereditary, which is my favorite horror film, and then
one of mine as well.
And then I led him on the Conjuring series because it's so good. It's just written so well. But we were not sleeping.
Well, I grew up with Goosebumps. So like having Annabelle, it reminded me of Night of the Living Dummies. And I was just like, no.
Annabelle freaks me out. Yeah.
And that's actually something else I want to talk about. You just reminded me. So like saying you grew up with Goosebumps. I wasn't as into Goosebumps. I was more into Are You Afraid of the Dark? But like that generation of all those like geared towards kids horror shows. Yeah. Like I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people of like, oh my God, remember that one episode? So scary. Remember this episode was so scary. And then now you rewatch it as an adult and you're like, wow, like I was afraid of that, but obviously it's made for kids. But I think that's another like kind of like shared trauma thing that we as humans can bond over, that it's like, we all watched this movie or we all watched this show and how it affected us. And
that's really a good point.
Yeah, it's a fun conversation to have with people too. Or even if it's the opposite, that like, this scared the shit out of me, and the other person's like, I thought that was super lame. Like just in your like relating to other people, I think horror is a really cool thing to do that over,
Definitely, because it's easier to say like, that freaked me out, that made me cry about a film, rather than being like, hey, I'm just gonna expose my soul. This is what freaks me out in life and my family and everything. It's like, no, we could bond over a movie and we both have that like visceral reaction from like, the thing that comes into my head is in Goosebumps, there was a guy who was growing plants in his basement and then it took over him. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, the plants are coming, it's happening. And then you watch it now and you're like, and I'm a big plant mom and I'm like, that's fine, I'll become one of the plants. It's okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Do either of you have listened to the podcast Radio Rental by chance? Okay. Oh my God, listeners. Not to pimp out another show but the more the merrier. I freaking love it, and it's fun to do too. And like if you're going on a long car ride with someone, a road trip, that's what they're called. But it's like real life stories, and people are like in their own voice recounting, like could be weird dreams, just like ghost stories or like weird occurrences. And I'm blanking on his name. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. But the actor who plays Dwight Schrute, he kind of like
Rainn Wilson.
Rainn Wilson? He like narrates, he plays this character as like this video rental store owner. And he's like kind of like just haunting and menacing and just like really funny though, and like that corny way that he like does it up. It's really cute. But the stories, man, like I would get goosebumps like just even listening to some of them. So just wanted to plug that in because it's really fun. I'm obsessed and I want to collab somehow. It's amazing.
Like, we'll just tell you a story. Maybe you when you're done with your film, it can be a marketing thing. You can like tell the story as the character to him.
I like that.
Juicy. Okay, Jess, I see you.
We love a good marketing spin with people we love.
Well, speaking of marketing, because I could go on about psychology and horror movies forever, but I want to bring it back to your film, Sleep Talking. So where are you at in the production process with that?
Totally. So we are filming this summer, July 5th to July 30th.
Nice.
We were supposed to film last summer, but the Delta variant, it wasn't feeling safe. So we ended up postponing because we have, a 15-year-old on set and an 8-year-old, and a film's not worth getting kids COVID. So
yeah,
totally. I feel so grateful. I respect both of you. You're just so determined, hardworking, creative, and just I love how much you share the process and how vulnerable you are with it, because it is really scary to make a film and you feel alone a lot of the times. And you two are like, no, we're not doing it. I'm sharing it with you. Let's do this together and we'll figure it out along the way, which is what we need more of.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you, babe. Don't make me cry at like 11 a.m. That's so beautiful.
Crying to your coffee, mix it in.
Yeah, just a little salt.
Just some emotional coffee, it's fine. It's emotional anyway.
Exactly.
Well,
no, Jess, thank you.
And before we wrap up, I want to make sure that our listeners can follow you, check out your work. So anything you want to plug, please do.
Pimp it out, girl.
So our website for Sleep Talking is sleeptalking.film. I actually have a newsletter that I write monthly to talk about just the process, where we're at with filmmaking and all of that. I love a good newsletter.
Nice.
Oh my God. Yes. We'll have to plug that in the notes. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then my personal website is jesscosta.com. I was really stoked I can actually get that URL. And on social media, I am Jess Costa Films with an S.
Awesome. All easy to remember, easy to spell. Love that.
Jess.
I know I was really hooked up with branding for my own birth name, so I feel very lucky.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Femme Regard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals.
We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Femme Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at femregard.com.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.